Today, we're gonna be making some pork steaks. Now, these are different than pork chops in that they're actually cut from the pork butt or from the pork shoulder. So they're really, really marbled, and they're kind of similar, in my opinion, to kind of like a ribeye steak. Super satisfying, super delicious, and they're super inexpensive because pork shoulder is one of the cheapest cuts of meat that you can buy. I'm gonna show you first how to cook them over the grill, a charcoal grill, and then I'm also gonna show you how to pan-sear them. We're gonna do a simple white wine pan sauce. You can get your pork steaks at the store. It's not always easy to find them, but you can easily make your own. You buy the whole pork butt or pork shoulder, the Boston butt, and then you can just slice off your own steaks. You can have your butcher make it, or you can often find what's called our blade shoulder steaks that are pre-cut shoulder steak. I like to cut them about an inch thick or so. I like to do a really fast sear on them and not cook them too long. We want to cook these to medium. I like to pull them at 140 degrees. They'll rise another 5 degrees or so as they rest. So they're going to be perfectly medium, a little bit pink, crusty on the outside, and really, really flavorful. As far as seasoning, I keep this really simple. You can brine these in a dry brine or a wet brine. I like to just salt them ahead of time, at least an hour ahead of time, but you can do it night before, the day before. Just put them on a wire rack and put that in the refrigerator after you heavily season them with kosher salt. You want to do it at least an hour before because that's going to allow the moisture to be drawn out a little bit, and then it'll be pulled back in. So while you're setting up your ingredients, setting up your grill, you can season those, just let them sit out. If you're gonna do it for more than an hour, then put them in the fridge on a wire rack. That'll give that salt plenty of time to soak all the way through that meat, and it'll make it really, really flavorful. It'll keep it really juicy. For the grilled steaks, I like to put a little bit of canola oil on, which helps get a nice sear. In the pan, it's not necessary. We'll put a little bit of oil in the pan. There's also a lot of fat that's gonna render into the pan, so it's gonna help with the sear. Plenty of pepper. We already have the salt on here. Grill is nicely preheated. We want to have two zones. We want to have a really hot side and a cool zone we can move to just in case. There will be potentially some flare-ups as the fat drips down. We're gonna let these cook for about 2 minutes per side, flip them, and we keep flipping them until they are done, maybe about 10 minutes total. And we're looking for around 140 degrees, which is right about there. So I'm gonna go ahead and pull these. You can see it took about 10 minutes. We have a really nice, beautiful sear on there. We're gonna let these rest for 10 minutes covered. For our pan-seared pork steaks, we're gonna preheat a heavy bottom skillet over high heat and then season our pork with freshly ground pepper. As we preheat, we're just gonna add a little bit of vegetable oil or neutral oil. As this just starts to smoke, it's pretty much ready to start searing. You definitely want to turn your vent hood on to get all the smoke out because these can be smoky. Go ahead and place these in. We're gonna flip them about every 2 minutes or so. They're gonna get nice and golden. We don't need to cook them too long. About 10 minutes total. You can really use whatever kind of pan you want for these. If you want to get extra flavor when you're making that sauce, use a stainless steel skillet because it'll actually kind of stick the flavors onto that skillet. Go ahead and flip them again. We're probably gonna flip them maybe on each side twice. Now it's important to remember the pull temperature. We're going to try to get these out about 140 degrees, and then they're going to keep rising. So they're going to go up to 145. To make our pan sauce, we're just going to put some shallot in here and just kind of let that saute just to soften up. Use the fat that's rendered off from the pork to saute that. I'm going to be doing that over low heat. And then once those had a chance to cook, we're going to add our wine, about half a cup of dry white wine. Just scrape off the bottom all those brown bits that are on there. And we're going to let this cook down till there's just a couple tablespoons left. So the wine's going to add acidity to the sauce. We also want to add a few sprigs of fresh thyme in here. As that cooks, it'll add some nice flavor. If you don't have wine, you could use chicken stock if you want, but you can also use brandy or cognac. As we can see, there's just a little bit of wine left in here, a few tablespoons. Then we'll add our cream. We want to be really gentle with the heavy cream. We don't want to boil it too much or it can break. Just gonna let this thicken up, and then we can season it with a little bit of salt and some pepper as well. You can use white pepper if you don't want to see the pepper, but I don't really mind myself. Just really gently let this simmer. You can see it's bubbling there, but don't want to overdo it. Just let it thicken up. If you want to add a little bit of kick to it, you could whisk in a little bit of Dijon mustard, maybe a tablespoon right at the end here, or with the cream. I'm gonna leave it as is. You could also add a pinch of dry rub if you use the dry rub on the pork. That would make the sauce nice kick, nice flavor to it. That would go with the pork. I'm really happy with this thickness, so I'm gonna go ahead and slice the pork and plate it up. We'll take out the thyme sprigs as well. We don't want those in the sauce. Slice our pork. You can see it's nice and pink in the middle. Now you could just put these right on the plate as is without slicing it and let people slice themselves, but it's kind of makes it even easier to eat. I'll try a little piece of this. This is super tender. You wouldn't think that a big cut like this would be so tender. You can understand why it's flavorful because it's nice and marbled, but it is incredibly tender. So satisfying. I'll just put it on the plate here like that. Drizzle over some of our pan sauce. As much or as little as you want. And we'll do a little bit of parsley on top. Now to look at the grilled version. I'm gonna taste it and compare to the pan-seared version. See, it's nice and pink. It's super, super tender. Has a totally different flavor than the pan-seared version because it was cooked over charcoal. So you get that little bit of smoky char. They're both really delicious. So it just shows you that the method that you use to cook really influences the actual flavor. So depending on what you're going for, you can totally change it up. So delicious, so affordable, and you have to give it a try.